Good evening and welcome to Lowell, City of Lowell Zoning Board of Appeals for March 14, 2022. Tonight's meeting is live in person. It can also be seen on LTC. You can join in via computer, tablet, via Zoom, and that'll be refereed by DPD staff or anyone wishing to speak on behalf of a petition. This evening, if you have a cell phone, please turn it off or place it on vibrate. If you wish to speak amongst yourselves, please do so in the hallway to respect the decorum of the public hearing. Tonight's alternative voting member will be Mr. Robert Nairoji, and we have a couple of administrative issues. Petition ZB 2022-30-3 for a variance under section 6.1.10, 505 Capital Partners LLC at 3840 Swift Street, was not placed on today's agenda in timeline according to ZBA. So therefore, this has been moved to a continuance in agreement with the petitioner to March 28, 2022. All documents have been uploaded on the city website and are available there, and this will be the public notice for that continuance.
We don't have to take a vote on that? No?
Do we need to take a vote on that, or is just that matter of public record? We do need to take a vote.
Yeah, I thought you
Okay, so that would be a continuance. If I could have a motion, Mr. Clerk.
Thing.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to continue ZBA 2022-3 for variance for
6.1.
For variance under section 6.1.10 to be continued to the next meeting, March 28th.
Thank you. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr.
Chairman Perrin.
Yes.
Oh, I was doing a roll call.
Up, roll call.
Sorry.
Yeah, I thought you were asking me a question. Roll call, please.
Chairman Perrin.
Approve continuance.
Vice Chairman Callahan.
Approve continuance.
Member McCarthy.
Approve continuance.
Member Briere.
Approval.
Member Naroge.
Approve continuance.
Member Procope.
Approve continuance.
Continuance has been granted. We're going to move the agenda out of order as a request under new business, ZBA 2022-8 for variances, JMF Realty LLC, Brian K. Occasion, 32 Pine Hill Street, Section 5.1. JMF Realty LLC has applied to the Zoning Board of Appeals seeking variance approval to subdivide an existing lot, Lot 2, containing a single-family structure, and construct a new single-family home on the new lot, Lot 1. The subject property is located in traditional multifamily TMF zoning district. Lot 1 and Lot 2 require variance approval pursuant to Section 5.1 for relief from the minimum lot area per dwelling, and minimum frontage requirements, and any other relief required of the zoning ordinance. Good evening, Councilor. How are you tonight?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Attorney Brian Occasion. My office is at 1 Courthouse Lane in Chelmsford, and I'm here tonight on behalf of JMF Realty LLC and the manager, Mr. Michael Farris, who is with me. Today, we're here seeking a variance to subdivide an existing lot containing one single-family structure and construct a new single-family home on the new lot. The property is located at 32 Pine Hill Street in the Ayers City, South Lowell section of Lowell. Both lots, based on the plan that we submitted, would require variances for minimum lot area per dwelling unit, and minimum frontage requirements. We submitted architectural plans to the board, and those plans were reviewed by the planning department. In there, you will note in that section of the city of Lowell, the houses that are being proposed do fit in with the neighborhood. The lot areas in that area are relatively small, as are the frontage. I drove by there just on the way here, and there are a lot of cars that park right in front of the current home, as there is no driveway. And you'll look with the plan that was being submitted, there would be a driveway constructed for the existing house that's already there, and the new house would also have a driveway. In the TMF zone, it's required for 4,500 square feet for the lot. What we're seeking is Lot 1 to be 3,360 feet and the Lot 2 to be 3,345 square feet. And as I said, that's in line with what is in the neighborhood there. There are many, the homes are tight there, but as I said, these homes that the home that we built will be an added value to the neighborhood. They will increase the property values. Additionally, the house that's there now is going to be rehabbed along with that, the driveway that's going to be installed. And the comments that we received from the planning, DPS, or Department of Planning and Services, one thing that they did notice was that there was a tree that was going to be removed, and they requested that it be replaced. After speaking with Matt Hammer, the engineer, that tree can remain on the property and not affect the project at all. Additionally, there were comments relative to the stormwater and that the development is located about 100 feet from the sewer line at the bend of 18 Pine Hill Street. Of course, the developer would work with the sewer department to make sure that we tie in the most economical manner. If you look at the lot severely slopes, and a literal enforcement of the zoning code would provide a substantial hardship to the applicant. And I will just note, I know I've said it repeatedly, but the abutting homes on Pine Hill Street, 34 and 38, their frontage is only 30 feet, and we're seeking 40 feet here. So although it's a variance from the code, it is in line with what is in the neighborhood. So we're asking that those variances be allowed, and I know we'll have to go back to the planning board for if that's allowed, for a definitive subdivision. And we'd be happy to answer any questions you had.
Great, thank you, Counselor. That being said, I'd like to open the public. Anyone wishing to speak in favor? In favor?
Just had a couple things I wanted to add.
Good evening, sir, if you could just state your name and
My name's
address for the
Gregory
record.
Moran. I live at 35 Prospect, which is directly behind that property.
Thank you.
And just a couple things I wanted to point out that, pertaining to that variance. One is, as the counselor mentioned, parking's obviously an issue. Parking's always an issue in that neighborhood, even though most houses have a driveway. Neighborhoods are very crowded with development. Obviously, there's not a lot for kids and families. All this building in the neighborhoods, they're adding more and more houses. They're taking away a lot of the vegetation and things like that. Loss of urban vegetation, trees, et cetera. Privacy. I know my house is directly behind that property. You have Isabel's, a woman that used to live there. You have her house, and then you have the lot, which is a nice yard. My yard is directly behind it. So you have the breeze and you have the sun. We have grass in my backyard. We have a garden. You're building a house now. You're blocking all of that. The other question I have is, I was reading on the proposed plans. Maybe you can answer me on this. It says that by building this house adds value to the neighborhood. I don't see how that happens by adding another house. And the other question I have is, or my understanding is, with a variance, is that you're supposedly, you're incurring some type of hardship. I mean, you have a house that's there with a decent-sized yard, and now you're adding another house. I'm kind of lost on that, why another house needs to be built in that small space. I mean, that's pretty much what I have. And like I said, on a personal note, it affects me because the house is directly behind me. You have the breeze, you have the sun, you have all those things, and I don't know, they just seem to add more and more. You say it's in line with the neighborhood, but it seems like we're taking every little piece of property and shoving a house in there, I mean, I don't know that it's necessary, But that's for you guys to decide, I guess. That's what I got.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. Any others wishing to speak in favor? In favor? In favor? That portion of the public hearing is now closed. Any others wishing to speak in opposition? In opposition? In opposition? That portion of the public hearing is now closed. I'd like to open up to the board. Sean?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Council, I don't know, have you had an opportunity to speak with any of the, did you reach out to the neighborhood and speak to any of the neighbors? I know there was one.
I believe Mr. Farris did speak with the neighbors prior
Okay.
to, I don't know if he spoke to this individual, but he did speak to neighbors in the neighborhood.
Okay. No, but I mean, it sounds like he certainly has some concerns, but it's a neighborhood, it's a tightly wound neighborhood there, and this is one of the fewer lots that is, it's just larger, but they do seem to fit, like you said, that the neighborhood itself is tightly compact, and the lots seem to be about the same size. I mean, I share the concerns of the neighbor on this, but I also think that, adding an additional property in the neighborhood, as long, with regards to the way it's structured, as far as with the garage and the driveway, which would get the cars off the streets, because it's a very narrow street over there that you can't really cars parking on there. And then the other concern, obviously, I had was the tree, which you had pointed out. Your plans are to go to the planning board with regards to a public tree hearing, but I didn't really see much of a landscape plan, though, too. I'm unsure, what are the plans for the backyard? I mean, it looks like, is it just going to be vegetation? I mean, is it like a deck back there? I'm trying to see, what's...
Mr. Farris can address
Okay.
that.
Hi, my name is Michael Farris. We do have to take trees out to put the house in, so the plan for us is to replant in the backyard in kind the number of trees that we take out
Okay.
in the same number.
And is there going to be any other type of shading back there besides, it looks like you just have looks like a chain link fence. There's already a chain link fence that's going around there. Is there going to be any other type of shading as far as?
You mean other than the trees?
Other than, additional trees or a larger fence or?
There's no other shading that I mean, besides the natural vegetation that's already there, no.
Okay.
No, but I mean, we could plant, if you want some sort of boundary with arborvitaes or something along that chain link fence.
I think that would be.
Still going to be a considerable yard in the
Yeah.
back.
I think maybe that might be beneficial. I mean, it's not really, the plans, I mean, the site plan itself is, it shows a lot of removing trees, but doesn't show any plantings or anything. So there's really no landscape plan that's been put forth.
I think the planning board's comment was to replace the number of trees that we took out,
Okay.
and that's what we would do. That was I'll call it our plan.
Okay. Yeah, so minimally, I would probably would like to add a condition that, that a landscape plan be provided for the approval of DPD, which would
Yeah, I think that's a
be,
good idea.
and which demonstrates proper shading in the back with the trees and whatnot, so. Other than that, I don't have much anything further, so thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Sean. Dennis?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I just have a couple of questions, but I just want to start by saying that it's kind of surprising sometimes when you see these site plans that are asking for variances and the proposed building meets the, or exceeds the criteria for usable open space and setbacks. So you're building a substantial house, 20 feet wide, I think it's 2 or 3 bedrooms, with a garage, and you're meeting the setbacks or exceeding them, and exceeding the usable open space required for the district. That just speaks to the fact that the existing house could have an addition that would make more of an impact on the neighborhood than this proposed house. Just as an example of what could be built on that lot that would have maybe even a bigger impact or more negative impact. So what is being done here and proposed here today that I see is somewhat restrained in that you're asking for no setback variances other than the one that already exists on the existing lot. And you're exceeding the setback required in the rear yard, and you're exceeding the setback required in the front yard. That being said, have you seen the comments from the design planner?
I did.
Specifically the window, I think. that was
About the
being
window on the
asked for.
second floor, proposed additional window.
Is that in a bathroom, I think, on the floor plan?
Yes. And that would be fine as a condition. We'd be more than
So
willing
we
to add that.
incorporate the additional window?
Absolutely.
All right. And then how are we handling the foundation wall that's exposed on the because that front elevation does have a lot of, it looks like foundation wall that would be remaining, is that correct?
Yeah, on the front here.
The elevation though, right? Is he concerned about? Are you concerned about the aesthetics?
Mhm.
Oh. Again, if you would like plantings in the front, I would assume that's gonna happen anyway to dress it up. You know, we would probably do that, presentable.
I think assumptions are okay for some people, but I like to
I-
go
okay.
into an approval knowing what we're getting.
I think that makes a lot of sense. It's a good thing to put into the conditions.
So in the
So some
past,
sort of planting in front of the, I mean, typically, I've done it in my own house, you know, you have 4 feet of foundation wall, so you put greenery in front of it. Is that what you're asking?
so do we know how much exposed foundation wall we have in the front elevation there?
Between the garage door and the steps, it's not that much. It's probably about 6 feet.
6 feet wide by 8 feet high?
No, well, it's not 8 feet high. The garage door is 8 feet, and the stairway is in front of it.
Yep,
So maybe half that, 4 feet, and then it
Okay.
slopes up.
okay. So the element that probably has the most negative impact visually is the stairway?
I guess you're right, yes. Yep.
You don't show proposed grading up against that on the site plan. So my understanding is that we're going to see all of that concrete exposed, is that right?
On the elevations, it does show that we're going to have, slight grading of the, there'll be a slope that coincides with the slope of the stairs. So on the site plan, it doesn't show exactly, I guess you're right, in front of the stairs. See, with this setup with the retaining wall, that wall can go up to a height where you won't need to have a lot of the stairs exposed, because the stairs will be in the ground, if you know what I mean. And then you'll come up to that platform, which will be above ground, above the grade.
What I hope for in new construction is that we see less concrete and more siding or landscaping. So in past projects that we've had before us, we might reduce the amount of exposed concrete to be no more than 3 feet, and the siding be brought down, would be a good
That's
way
perfectly
to
fine.
help. So a
Yeah.
condition that we'll have no more than 3 feet of exposed concrete would be worth,
Sure,
if my fellow board members can
that's a
support
good
that.
idea. Great.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. And I think you're right, this neighborhood having the 70-foot lot area frontage required, yet you do see so many projects nearby with far less in such density. This is almost like a leftover empty lot that was never built on. It kind of feels that way.
That's how it appears when you drive by.
Right, right. And I'm shocked that you're saying that tree can be saved. So are you going to do a well around it? How are we doing that? Is there a tree well that's going to allow that to happen? How's the grading going to work?
I thought, until I sat down here today, I thought the tree was being removed, and that was going to be a condition, that we have to replace it. And Mr. Farris talked to the engineer earlier today, and he said that that tree could be saved. So either it's saved, or we'll do whatever it takes to replenish. I know it's a city shade tree.
Saving it is,
Yeah, absolutely, that's,
that's what I would gravitate to first, right?
So I did speak to Matt Hammer exactly about this tree, because I would like to save it myself. I think we probably feel the same way about trees. And he feels that we can, the wall's gonna be far enough away from the root ball of the tree where it will not kill the tree, to put the wall in, you know, cut the roots up to that spot and leave the tree exactly where it is. Like, not well it, we couldn't well it, because we'd end up going around and cutting the roots. But just the roots that come up against the wall
Okay.
in the driveway.
I know, Sean, you had asked for a landscape plan to be worked with DPD as a condition. I think we'll just add to that landscape plan to show the existing tree on, is that Lot 2? The existing street tree on Lot 2.
it's
to-
lot 2.
So we'll just add that to that condition.
2.
The landscape plan to be developed with DPD and to show the existing street tree on Lot 2 to remain. All right, great. I have no further comments. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dennis. Mark?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I had a very positive perspective when I visited the site. In fact, I'm reviewing some of the notes that I made, and it seems to be very consistent with the thoughts of the DPD. The plan certainly fits within the character of the neighborhood. There's no doubt about that. There are homes that sit on similar or smaller lots currently. The elevations are consistent with the neighboring homes. And I do believe that the addition of a new home to the neighborhood does add value to the other property owners. The fact that you've made some concessions with saving the large tree and agreeing to install that window, that's all a plus, which enables me to vote in favor of this petition. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Robert?
Mr. Chairman, I have a question with regard to the 3-foot setback for the driveway, for the parking lot. Is that going to be at least 3 feet? I don't see it on the site plan.
Right, I read that in the comment, that I don't think there is enough room there to set back 3 feet. So we could either, according to the comment, let me just pull it together here. I made a note of it. Just bear with me for 1 second.
The existing building has, the existing dwelling has at least a 3-foot,
Yeah, I have it, the comment 11, correct?
but the new one doesn't seem to.
I mean, the comment from, was that the board may wish to require the applicant to supplement plans showing dimensionally compliant parking spaces or may grant relief from this requirement. If you would like us to submit dimensionally required parking spaces, we will do that. Or if you choose to grant the relief, that'd be great too, but we'll do whatever the board requires to make sure that that spot is compliant.
If you could, you know, if that requirement could be met.
Right.
Other than that, you know, I'm also interested in a landscaping plan, so, and those are my comments, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Robert. George?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And thank you for a wonderful presentation. And I do share the sentiments of this board that the landscaping issue would be significant. As Member McCarthy mentioned, that, you know, when we see a lot of new construction, we would want to see green space because, you know, that's obviously going away and it does help, you know, the environment and the neighborhood. So I would like to see, you know, that amendment. You saw the comments about the stormwater as well?
Yes.
So you are doing some construction, and you are going to be connecting to the city services?
Yes.
Okay. I'm not sure if I saw that in the plan, but other than that, and the fact that you said that you are going to save the tree, I think that's commendable, working with the city to make sure that we don't, derogate the area. But I think you've addressed my concerns as well. Maybe some of the things you may want to consider is that if you ensure that you did speak to the neighbors to make sure that they do feel, comfortable. Those who may, I'm not sure the person that spoke, whether he was for or against. He just had some questions, so
Right.
maybe those can be addressed.
Absolutely. We'll definitely meet after the meeting here.
Okay. All right. I don't have any further questions, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Judge. So you've heard the comments of the board, Counselor. We're looking at, I believe, 4 conditions: submittal of a landscape plan, condition of a placement of a window on the second floor as recommended, as noted by Mr. McCarthy, no greater than 3 feet of exposed concrete, and a driveway document to show the value of it. Mr. McCarthy.
I think there might have been some confusion, Francesca, with the parking comment from the, so what I'm looking at is on Lot 1, the parking space is away from the foundation of the home, but is adjacent to a retaining wall. And the retaining wall may have been seen as a structure, but it's not a home. So I think we have dimensioned plans for parking that meet zoning, if I read it correctly. So I don't know if that last condition is required. That's my point.
I think there's a way of phrasing the condition, just like making it flexible so that we're just making sure that it's compliant, and if it's not, then I'm not sure. This is my project, so I'm not totally familiar with the particular comment from staff.
It specifically talks about the dimensional characteristics of the one parking space on Lot 1, I think, if I read it correctly.
And then you're saying that it doesn't appear, staff had said that it doesn't appear to be 3 feet, but you're saying that a retaining wall wouldn't count as
Right,
toward the building setback?
correct.
Okay, then you can,
Yeah, so I don't think that applies then because of that reason. The setback is building and not retaining wall, right?
correct, yeah, the setback wouldn't apply to a retaining wall.
Right.
If that retaining wall, yeah, it wouldn't.
Thank you.
Is it identified on the plan as a retaining wall? Yeah, okay. I thought so.
Yeah, it is.
Okay, yeah. All right, any other comments or concerns from the board? None being heard, if I could have a motion, Mr. Clerk. Strike that. Counsel, are you in agreeance
Yes.
with the conditions that are going to be set forth?
The petitioner is in
vote.
agreement with the conditions set forth.
Thank you, apologies. Mr. Clerk, may I have a motion?
Three, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion for ZBA 2022-8 for variance at 32 Pine Hill Street with the 3 conditions that the no more than 3 feet of exposed foundation wall be left after construction, that the landscape plan be developed with DPD to include the saving of the street tree at Lot 2. And the third one is, no, I just said that.
The concrete landscape
Window.
plan and, oh, the window.
the one that I suggested. And that the front elevation incorporate the window on the second floor as per the design planner's review.
Thank you. May I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Briere. May I have a roll call?
Chairman Perrin,
Approve with conditions.
Member Callahan,
Approve with conditions.
Member McCarthy,
Approve with conditions.
Member Briere,
Approval.
Member Procope,
Approval with conditions.
Member Naroge.
Approved with conditions.
Council, you've been unanimously approved. We wish you the best of luck.
Thank you,
Thank you
Mr.
for
Chair.
coming in.
Thank you, members of the board.
Pleasure. Thank you, sir.
Excuse me, I just had a quick question about the condition about concrete. Could you just explain that a bit?
Sure. The exposed foundation wall around the elevations is more than 3 feet, and so that creates a rather unsightly exterior wall. And what is typically done is the siding is brought down to no more than 3 feet above the grade, so that we have no more than 3 feet of exposed foundation wall.
Thank you.
Thank you. Moving forward under continued business, ZBA 2022-2 for variance, Chem Sarad at 16 Calvert Street. Section 5.1, Chem Sarad has applied to the Zoning Board of Appeals for variance approval to construct an addition at 16 Calvin Street. The property is in the suburban single-family SSF zoning district and requires variance approval under Section 5.1 for relief from the minimum side yard setback requirement for any other relief required in the Lowell zoning ordinance. So, representative here this evening. Good evening, gentlemen. Tell us a little bit about your petition and how we've moved since our last meeting.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and the board member. And my name Brian Wah, at 26 Pine Street, general contractor with Mr. Zared Chum, the owner of 16 Calvin Street.
Sir, if you could just lift that microphone up closer to you so
Okay.
it can be recorded on public hearing. Thank
Yeah,
you.
last time we met, the notice was fall, and now we put it back. So I don't know, with the 2x4 strong this time.
And have you had any comments, have any conversations with DPD in reference to our previous meeting and the comments?
Yeah, I think we already talked to with the commissioner, and with the plan already submitted, but we have to wait for the zoning to be approved, and we go from there.
Pull that microphone back up.
Oh, sorry.
Drops on you, yeah. We need to hear you in chambers and for the recording for the
Okay,
public.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
So
All right, so if
we
you had an
already have everything all set with the building department, then we only wait to get approval from the ZBA, then we can continue the progress.
Okay. Thank you. I'd like to open up to the board. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition? In opposition? In opposition. That portion of public hearing is now closed. Anyone wish to speak in favor? In favor?
Here. James Lucia, like to speak in favor.
Online.
Oh, yeah, good evening, sir. If you could just state your name and address for the record.
Yes, James Lucia, Lucia, property address 40 Calvin Street, mailing address 9 Calvin Street. I'm one of the abutters on Calvin Street, just down the street, couple houses down, and I'm in favor of the variance for 16 Calvin Street.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Sir, if you don't mind, how long you been on that street? How many years?
Since 1973.
Yeah, that's a great neighborhood.
Yes.
You have some good neighbors over there that have been in that neighborhood for a long time. We appreciate you taking the time out tonight to speak in favor of your neighbor here.
Thank you very much.
Our pleasure. Any others wishing to speak in favor? In favor? In favor? That portion of public hearing is now closed. I'd like to open it up to the board. Sean?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Trying to recall, what is it that, I remember that when we were doing the last meeting, there was going to be some additional required filings and documentation, if I'm not mistaken. I don't think I see anything updated. Fran, has anything else come in from the petitioner?
No. We
It was
haven't
just-
received anything else.
Mr. Vice Chair, I believe it was the notice had blown.
Oh, yeah,
That's-
okay.
That's been up.
Yes.
Okay.
For the record, I've received several pictures via text. Someone must have some spare
Yeah.
time.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Now coming back, there's a recollection of that now. I remember, and if I recall, there wasn't, there wasn't much issue with the project itself. It had to do with whether proper notice was provided, and now the light bulb's gone off now again. So if I recall now, there shouldn't be any. I didn't find that there would be any real issues with the project itself. There was a notice. There was a question about the notice and whatnot. So that being said, I don't really have any other comments or questions, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for reminding me. Appreciate it.
Pleasure. Thank you, Sean. Dennis?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I just want to say that I think that this shows a fair amount of restraint as far as what could be built on the site, and the relief that you're seeking is largely due to the side yard setback of the existing house. So the side yard setback of the existing house is only the 5.9 feet, which doesn't provide the minimum for the setback for the zoning. So it's not the addition that's looking for the relief as much as the existing house as far as how I read it. That being said, there's potential for another variance that we're seeking tonight, that you're seeking, that would be for the pavement not being 3 feet or being less than 3 feet from the addition for the driveway. Is that correct?
Yeah, we haven't do anything pavement yet, until we do it after, so.
That's fine.
Yeah.
The way it's described on the site plan today is that it would be closer than 3 feet to the addition, but if you can accomplish 3 feet, that would be preferred. So you'd have a 3-foot landscaping strip or not paved area between the driveway edge and the addition. Are you agreeable to that?
I didn't get it, sorry.
Do you understand my point, my question?
No, not really, sir.
So the driveway goes beside the addition
To the garage, right?
to the garage,
Yep,
and there's a unpaved surface
yep,
from the edge of the driveway to the addition of 3 feet.
okay.
And that's what you would be expected to construct when you pave the driveway. Is that agreeable? Okay.
Yeah,
Because I think that'd be preferred if you met zoning, and that's what I'd like to see if I, okay. Terrific. And I'm glad to see the sign still standing. It's wonderful. And everyone has been duly notified of this, petition. So I think any comments that we saw in the notes regarding the building, I think that's something that is going to be handled by the building inspector and commissioners, so I'm not going to suggest that we weigh in on that with any conditions, but that's my understanding. So I have no further questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dennis. Mark?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The only question I had when we last met was with respect to the construction being built on piers rather than the foundation, but as we had discussed, we were going to leave that up to the purview of the building department. So with that in mind, I support the petition. Thank you.
Thank you, George.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I too saw the sign up yesterday when I drove by, so I think you've met what we required from the last time, so I don't have any additional questions. Thank you.
Thank you, George. Robert?
Mr. Chairman, I'll be favorable in supporting the petition. I think the relief being sought is minimal. Thank you.
Thank you. So, sir, you've heard the comments of the board. We will be, I think it's only fair, we placed a condition in regards to Mr. McCarthy's comments. Any other concerns or comments? So you understand what we're going to do? We're going to put a condition regarding that pavement, so that you'll work with DPD, and then when you get your permits, you'll be able to stay in line with that.
Okay, thank you.
And you're in agreement, correct?
Yeah.
Correct, thank you. That being said, may I have a motion?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion for ZBA 2022-2 for variance at 16 Calvin Street. So the variance would be for both, be only for the side yard setback, and that there'll be a condition that the revised site plan be provided and/or that a pavement plan be provided that provides for a 3-foot setback from the driveway to the addition.
Thank you, may I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Vice Chair, may I have a roll call?
Chairman Perrin,
Approve with condition?
Member Callahan,
Approve with condition.
Member McCarthy,
Approve with condition.
Member Briere,
Approval.
Member Procope,
Approve with condition.
Member Naroge.
Approved with conditions.
So you've been unanimously approved. We wish you the best of luck. And just follow up with DPD and you can move forward.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you for coming in.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate it. Moving forward under continued business, ZBA 2022-6 for a variance, Zahi Abu Mahed at 697699 Beacon Street, Section 5.1, as applied to the Zoning Board of Appeals for variance approval, construction addition at 697-699 Beacon Street. The property is in suburban multifamily SMF zoning district and requires variance approval under Section 5.1 for relief from the minimum yard setback requirement and for any other relief required of low zone ordinance. Good evening, sir. Welcome back.
Good evening, gentlemen, everyone.
Just follow up where we left off.
Yeah, so we went through with a review in terms of the parking situations, in terms of where it's at. You know, it reviewed with the zoning board, and turns out, with the zoning office, the minimum requirement for a two-family is 2 units. However, I agreed with you back then, 2 weeks ago, that the parking probably does need to be expanded, and I proposed a new solution that would extend the existing driveways. The only challenge is the engineering department has come back and said, the existing driveway is not necessarily meeting the current offsets, but that's something I'm not sure we could do much about. But the new additions or the extensions, those will be meeting the setbacks to meet those requirements. And I think there was a question also for the zoning office with respect to being a bus line close by, and I think the answer is yes, there is.
It's marked. So it's
Yeah.
valid, but just not marked.
I reached out to the LRTA and they said that there is a bus stop there, it's just not marked.
Okay, well, when we open up public hearing, we can address that, and thank you once again, appreciate that. All right, great.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, I think that we could take care of that.
And, and I think, as was correctly pointed out in the notes, is that having a bus stop close by is also attractive for some of the folks living in the new place, so there's a positive for everyone, I think.
Okay, thank you.
So I hope I addressed all the questions from last meeting.
Yep, then we'll open it back up. We'll have
Okay.
discussion, thank you. This time, I'd like to open up the public. Anyone wishing to speak in favor? In favor? In favor? That portion of public hearing is now closed. I'd like to open it up to those in opposition. In opposition?
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman, we do have a
Yes.
few people on Zoom. I'm not sure if any of them would like to speak, but I just wanted to
Okay, we'll
hold some time.
we'll move forward with who's here live, and then we'll move on to the Zoom calls. You can referee that, that'd be helpful. Good evening, ma'am. You can state your name and address for the record.
Joan
Welcome back.
Harrison, 685 Beacon Street. And I took a picture on my way to the meeting tonight to show that the sign is there.
Okay.
I called earlier today, and they said it was still going to be on the meeting tonight. That was my only, and then this morning, I left my house at 8 o'clock, and there is a school bus that stops right in front of my neighbor's driveway, which is right next to that house.
Okay.
So you would ask that question, but I didn't know about school buses.
Okay, thank you. And
That was the only thing I
that's
had
your
to say.
only concern. at this time?
Yeah, because there's no sidewalks on the street on
Right.
either side, and the kids have to walk like in the road if people are parked. And there's no parking across the street from that house because it's all townhouses that have parallel parking.
Right.
So I can't see how they can fit, you said 6 or 8 parking spaces in that property. It's on a diagonal, the fence line. I just don't see how you could have any green space. It'd be all parking lot.
Right.
That's all.
Okay, thank you. Any others wishing to speak in opposition? In opposition? In opposition? Fran, if you want to bring in the Zoom attendees, that'd be helpful.
I'm not sure if they would like to speak about it.
Oh,
It's just
okay.
that we do have quite a few people on, so
Okay.
if no one says anything, then I think we
All right.
can move forward.
Any others wishing to speak on behalf of this petition in Zoom land? None being heard, like to open up to the board. Dennis? Give them the opportunity.
Through Mr. Chairman, I have a question for staff. I saw that, well, I'm looking online at what we have posted on the site, and I don't see new documents regarding the changed floor plan, elevations, and site plan. And I think typically we ask for those documents to be provided no later than Thursday of the previous week before the meeting. But I do see an email that I think this afternoon around 2 o'clock or so from Serena Gonzalez that has new documents for this application. Is that correct?
Yes. I received a few things today, and I think maybe some of it before, but I sent it out earlier today.
So are those the new documents that we're supposed to be reviewing for tonight's meeting?
Can I answer that for a second? The narrative, the updated narrative, I sent that maybe about a week ago. The only thing that I did update today was really the site plan, the floor plan and the elevation. Just,
Well,
you know,
that's
just to complete.
substantial material, though, I think, for us to have.
I was never told I was supposed to bring it in that much earlier. I apologize. I didn't know that I should have gotten it earlier.
And it's not on the website for the public to see either, I think, right?
I posted it earlier. It should be there.
All right. Under new plans? No.
Is this them? Yeah, 311. They are there.
So they are here on the site, okay. All right.
Yeah, I think for the issue, the question of the parking, the main issue is the parking plan, and that was part of the narrative, so it has all the documentation there.
All right, so the parking plan that I saw is 72 feet long of pavement. Is
Right.
that your intent?
Yes.
Okay. And so the idea behind 72 feet is that it's 4 18-foot spaces?
Roughly, depending on the size of the car, but, you know, I think the requirement is 20, but I figured if at least 3 to 4, depending on what people want to do.
No, that's the new one, yeah. All right,
I-
and there isn't at least I didn't see a narrative that decreases the usable open space. I think it said something about 750 required usable open space. And I think previously we were talking about in excess of 1,500 square feet of usable open spaces on the lot with the previous parking plan. Do we have a document that states what we have for usable open space with the new parking plan?
No, but I think what we had talked about last time was that if he was going to add more parking, we would talk about getting a variance for usable open space.
But we don't know what of a variance. This site plan seems rather loose. It doesn't document where the usable open space is and how it's calculated with the new parking layout.
Yes.
So we don't know what we're looking for relief on the usable open space.
So, I did not calculate the open space in terms of what's available in the backyard right now. However, you could see the new addition in terms of how much it will encroach, and that is relatively, I mean, I could probably figure it out and come back to you with it.
To me, this seems rushed for us to be getting a site plan this close to the meeting and then be getting a site plan that doesn't have the documentation that identifies what you're looking for relief. It seems rushed. Me personally, that's how I feel about it.
Yeah, I reviewed it with the board earlier, not the board, with the zoning a week ago.
I reviewed the meeting online and signed an affidavit to be able to participate in tonight's meeting, but I am a member of the board.
I apologize, I wasn't referring to the board, I misspoke. It was with the zoning office to see what the requirement was,
Okay,
and then this seemed to be okay, and this is kind of like what I was presenting to them a week ago.
okay. If we were looking for a variance for usable open space, I think we should identify what that variance is as far as the area that's being sought. So, if you're the applicant, you
I
should
understand, but that's
identify it.
why I also was asking, you know, was this the material that was needed, and was this the update? Because it really wasn't
All
clear.
right. We seem to be going back and forth here, but my personal opinion is that as the applicant, you understand what the process is. It's in writing. It's clearly laid out and you should be able to articulate what you're looking for relief.
Okay, I apologize.
Okay. I also think that the 12-foot wide parking drive on the right side of the development here doesn't need to be 12 feet. I think we have a minimum of 8 feet wide for parking areas in the district. Is that correct? For driveways?
Do you mean the drive lane?
Well, no, this is going to be 4 stacked cars as
Yeah,
you're proposing.
yeah.
So it's
Okay, so the minimum width of a parking space.
of a driveway, I think, or a parking space in a driveway.
Sure, I will look right
I
now.
believe it's 8 feet. I think you could be 9 feet, and still be adequate and relieve some of the drainage problems in this area with pavement. Because right now, the existing pavement goes right up to the neighboring pavement.
Yes, is that the one you're suggesting to shorten, the one next to the next door neighbor?
I would suggest that we look for a minimum impact on the site and to provide parking with a minimum impact. And 12 feet is wider than it needs to be. I think 8 is the minimum.
If I may, the minimum width is 9 feet
9
in this
feet.
district.
Okay. Then 9 feet's the minimum, right? And I would suggest that you go to the minimum width of 9 feet.
I'm good with that. The catch is, what would your guidance be on which side to minimize it? Because right now, it's abutting the next door neighbor, and it's abutting the house. Which side do we shrink it? 1.5 from either side? I'm good with that too.
I would like you to work with the design planner to develop a strategy that makes sense for this particular application. I don't think that I want to be the one weighing in on that.
Sure, that's not a problem. I'll work with the engineering.
I think that the design
City
planner
engineering.
and staff probably could help you
Yep.
with that. So then we have 4 stacked parking spaces with the idea that we have parking off-site. I've never seen 4 stacked before the board here as a solution. I understand why you're doing it, because we're asking for more off-street parking. But you're looking at 4 stacked, okay.
Look, I mean, the alternative is not to do anything. I mean, there is, I don't want to do that. I think this is a good idea. So even 4 stacked is still going to be better than the alternative.
Yeah. Okay. Well, it does give people the flexibility to have more off-street parking.
That's right.
in the event that they have that many cars and they need to get them off the street.
Yep, that's the plan, that's the hope.
So I understand that.
Yep.
All right. I am surprised at the utilitarian nature of the elevations. They seem like they are put together in a manner that accomplishes sheathing the exterior in windows and siding, but does nothing to embellish them to make any kind of contextual tie-in with the neighborhood visually. It looks like it just accomplishes the utilitarian basics. For instance, your neighboring homes around the corners of the street, especially the ones, are all two-story with a gable roof.
Yeah,
And you're doing a version of that that doesn't relate to anything else in the neighborhood.
yes. I understand. I think the challenge with this building is that it is relatively a small footprint. So trying to expand into the upper floor, you know, we considered ideas where we would do, let's say, a more, more sharp pitched roof, mansard roof, for instance.
Or a gambrel.
Allows a little bit more, a roof space to pop out, which is very consistent with the neighborhood, except that the amount of footage it kills, it almost prohibits us from being able to do the expansion in a fashion that actually can work, let's say, financially, to make sense.
I would suggest a dormer aesthetic where you end up with a roof that's similar to what you have now. It's just a much steeper pitch, and you end up with a front and rear dormer so that it looks like it's more aligned roof edge-wise with the neighboring properties. Does that make any sense to you?
It does. The challenge is going to be the footprint, the resultant footprint, if it's going to be large enough.
I think it requires you to have an overhang.
Yeah.
So as long as you're basically doing what you're doing, but a much steeper roof pitch for the overhangs, so that you are able to tie
it in.
visually with the
Okay.
same roof edge. And I think that would help dramatically improve the connectivity with the context there of the
Okay.
adjacent properties.
I think that might be something we could consider.
Okay. And then, is there a landscape plan provided? I did not see
No.
one.
Yeah.
Are you envisioning street trees?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Street trees, adding street trees?
Frankly, no, we didn't consider that. Is that something that, the space in front of the house is relatively small. There's a very short distance.
I'm sure it could support a street tree.
Okay. Well, we'll be happy to add one.
I'm sure you could support probably 2 lovely street trees, if not 3.
All right,
But
well,
you could have one in the center, and then one in that other street that turns the corner.
yeah. Let's sign up for 2. We're good with 2.
All right. So my ask is that we reduce the parking drive to 9 feet minimum standard,
Okay.
and we have a dormer aesthetic where we incorporate the roof eave line as consistent with the adjacent properties as an overhang element.
Okay.
And then we have street trees added, 2 street trees added along the street edge. If that could be possible.
Okay.
It's a reach, but, I'm just thinking, when I go by there, I say, it's just a matter of time before these properties get developed, because you've got denser properties adjacent to it, and I understand why you're doing it, and I can see it. But I just want to see it done in a more sympathetic way, if we can get it.
Hey, I'm with you. I agree. I'm not trying to come in and do,
Yep.
Forcefully do this. It's just that,
Yep.
I do want it to grow organically. I appreciate the feedback, and I want to make sure that what we do fits and works for everybody.
Okay.
It's the right direction, though. We have to do this development. There's a need for it.
there's a need for zoning to catch up also. So there's a need for a few things in any event. No further questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Sean?
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate that you went back to the drawing board, because the parking was my main concern on this whole thing, but now my concern is if the neighbors have had a chance to even review the new plans for the parking. I don't know if you have, because we just got them in,
Well, no, the
we
parking
just
was
got them
a
in
week
today.
ago.
So-
The parking was in a week ago.
Sorry?
The parking plan was in a week ago.
Okay. Why were we just provided this today, if it was in a week ago? No? No answer? All right.
I do have confirmation email for receipt, right?
So it was included with the narrative, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So the elevations, the new elevations were provided today?
Yes. The elevation is not that much different. It's just moving the what do you call it? The
Yeah.
patios or the decks to the back versus from being on the side.
Okay. I mean, I agree with Dennis that it probably should at least be, that the new plan should be reduced to be reduced down as far as to a minimum, the minimum width to 9 feet. If you could work at whatever side, work with engineering to try to get it straightened out. On the left-hand side of the building, you have it at 10 feet, we can get that down to 9, should get that down to 9 feet as well. My suggestion, because of the layout of the lot, obviously, I think it's because that should be coming from the building side
Yep.
to try to get that over
certainly,
there.
yep.
That 1 foot should probably come from the building side.
Yep.
Because then you're flush against the edge of the lot there,
Yep.
too. There,
Yes.
to keep people,
Maybe put like a hedge plants
yes.
type stuff.
Yeah, that would be my concerns on that. I think,
Do that.
with conditioning those, or, I don't know if it's something that we want to put off to another hearing to get before review, but I'll listen to my other fellow board members, see what their suggestions are, so, thank you.
Thank you, Sean. Robert?
Mr. Chairman, I agree with my fellow board members. I think the site plan needs to be updated. It doesn't look like it even shows the dimensions for the parking spaces and setbacks from lot lines and the new building. So I think that site plan needs to be updated to reflect that. I agree that we need a landscaping plan as well. And I appreciate the petitioner's willingness to blend, to change the design so that it blends well with the neighborhood. So those would be my comments, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you. Mark?
My concerns when we last met are all centered around the parking, and that's still where my concerns are. Is there a certified parking plan that exists? He mentioned submitting a parking plan a week ago. Is staff in possession of that? Or are we referring to the land plot plan with the parking drawn in on?
Yes, that one.
So this is the only,
Yes,
this is what you're referring to?
yes.
Okay. So this new plan comes from where? And have you submitted new plans?
There's the part of the narrative, there's a new plan that was submitted about a week ago.
Right. Okay. So I see them be distinguished by existing plot plan and proposed plot plan.
Exactly.
All right. So you propose how many parking spaces?
I apologize, I'm sorry.
You propose how many parking spaces?
It should roughly fit 4 cars in each side
So you're
with
going to
this
put,
extension of the
you're
driveway.
going to put 8 vehicles on the property?
Yes,
And you're going to achieve that by, if I'm reading this correctly, on the left side of the building, you have a 32-foot-long driveway, and it's 10 feet wide. Is that correct?
yes,
And the new dimensions on the left-hand side would be, you're gonna go make it a foot narrower to 9 feet, is that correct?
per the suggestion, yep.
And then that driveway is going to extend along the building and take a sharp right in the rear?
Yes,
And that's how many feet? 47 and 20, that's 72 feet
yes,
of parking.
yes,
And that's where you get your 4 cars for the left-hand side.
yes.
Over on the right, you have 72 feet, and it's 12 feet wide.
Yes.
And what are you proposing to do with the width on the right-hand side?
Well, the suggestion is to shrink it to 9 feet to make sure that we provide relief both from the right side to the neighbor and left side as much as to the house. And then once we're past those dimensions, be compliant the rest of the driveway coming back in the back of the house.
Yeah. What happens to I'm referring to a photograph of the home that was submitted in your original packet. What happens to the decking on the right-hand side?
Yeah, that's the one that's going to be moved from both right and left. They're going to be moved to the back.
Yeah, right, okay. So those come out.
They come out.
What happens to that egress?
It's closed. The egress is going to be pushed into the back.
So that disappears. It now is in the rear of the building.
Yes.
All right.
The floor plan has that.
Yeah.
Your floor plan has that new egress.
All right. Now, do you have this photograph?
I have the place memorized. I could look it up on the online.
Okay. Well, it identifies a vehicle in the parking lot on the right-hand side of the building. I refresh my memory, is there to the right of the building, is there a fence
There's a fence that comes up
for the next
right
house?
after the back of the house. So if you look at you have the floor plan of the house. To the right is going to be the driveway and then the deck that is existing. And then if you remove the deck, actually the back of that deck, that's when the fence starts and it goes across on the right.
A question for staff. Do we look favorably upon this parking plan? Is this something we're going to okay? The 72 feet on one side and 72 feet on the other side as well. Is that what we're doing? Is that going to be?
That's for the board to decide.
What were the staff's concerns about this? What did they think? I don't know how this works. You could tell me you're going to stack 4 cars. How do you get in and out of there? And I know you can say, well, it's one family. They'll have to work it out amongst themselves. I get all that. No way. It doesn't happen. Try to get one kid out of bed while the other kids are, how do you get the cars out of there? I'm worried about you going onto the other guy's property to kind of back into the thing. I don't see it.
in 75 Beacon Street, I do have a driveway that's very much similar in terms of how it was built, and the neighbors do actually get along with each other, that they actually managed to do this. This wasn't necessarily a requirement back for that one, for the relief. It's just that we basically added the driveway, so it allowed people to put more parks off street, and everybody appreciated it, and they worked together to get it done.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you where I stand. I asked the staff a question, not because I was trying to volley it back to them so much, but I want to make sure that my concerns are legitimate. I want to make sure that this objection that I have, it has some value.
Yes.
And that's where I was looking for some guidance from staff.
If I may add one thing too, I think the minimum is 2 per unit, and we're expanding it, so we're kind of creating a little bit of relief already just by doing that.
I know you are, but in a very awkward sort of way.
That's the limit of the land. I mean,
I know. Okay, my friend, that'll conclude my questions. I don't know. I don't like it, but if it's legal, I have to support it. I don't want to deny this gentleman the opportunity if my objections have no basis. So I'm still not sure whether my objections have a basis or not. I haven't heard anything else here tonight to help me more definitively make a decision. Boy, I really don't want to give you the thumbs down, but that's the way I see it.
I understand, and I think when I first came here a couple of weeks ago, I knew the minimum was 2 per unit, and I know the unit actually meets it, so I'm not sure if actually they could even comment that we need to put more anyway. It's just that to some extent, we're trying to do this because we're all in agreement. This is the right thing for the neighborhood. It actually can help in terms of add the parking.
Well,
I don't know if that helps.
I'll leave it with this. If 4 stackable cars is legal, then I have to support it. As silly and as non-workable as I see it, I don't think I have an alternative but to approve it. We'll see if I hear anything else to change my mind, but I'm really reluctant with this. Really, yeah. 4 stackable. Well, I've made my case.
Thank you, Mark. Judge?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Did you say you did the same thing at 375 Beacon? What number Beacon was that?
75.
Oh,
75
number
Beacon Street.
75. Is that at a corner?
I'm sorry?
Is that at a corner of one of the, like, 6th Street or?
No.
Yeah. The only reason why I ask is my assumption is that, and I don't exactly, I'm trying to envision where 75 is, but it may not be the same as the corner of Willard and Beacon.
Totally different.
Because it just seems like there's a lot more traffic here. And that's probably why I could see the residents have that concern, because it's the activity, it's the bus stop, it's the school bus, it's the people coming on Willard and the people coming on Beacon. So if you have that many cars at this particular property, and the one thing that I would have to say about, the comment is valid is the fact that it's the limit of the land. I mean, that in that aspect, you can only do so much. So I do appreciate you trying to accommodate the board. But I don't see much of what we can say, according to Member Briere, that it looks like it's legal. I mean, you have to support it. But I am concerned about the amount of traffic that's in that area and the amount of cars that would be at that house. And as Member Briere said, if people are coming in and out of the house and that oncoming traffic, including the whether it's a school bus or the LRTA, it can be a concern for the neighbors. So, again, it's, I drove by the property again last night just to see, and I know that you're very limited. I don't know what much you can do to try to mitigate some of the concerns, but I could see why the parking is an issue. I don't know how you can resolve that, to be honest. But from the perspective of your development and what you're attempting to do, you know, you are accommodating, trying to put green space in there wherever you can. You've moved the decks in the back. But, yeah, I don't know what the solution is for the parking. So, yeah, it looks legal, what you're trying to do here. I have no other questions, Mr. Chairman. No questions, period.
Thank you very much. So you've heard the comments and concerns. We got Robert. Did you speak on it? Yeah, we did. Yep. No, I know, age is a terrible thing. The concerns I have is if we're extending to 72 feet, we're now bringing those side entrance decks around to the back so they're gonna be in the rear of the driveway, okay? They're gonna be the same footprint that's existing?
You mean the decks?
Yeah, the size. It's
Yeah,
comparable,
it's the same
correct?
dimension.
On the square footage?
Yeah, same dimension as the decks.
So now, wouldn't you agree we're now encroaching on green space again? We are.
Almost. It's actually a concrete slab in the back, for the way it is right now.
It's open space, right? There's trees back there.
There's
There's
back
a
of
small slab.
yeah.
There's a small,
Beyond that, there's
there's a small slab because it used to be a clothesline.
Probably
No, I know, it was.
it was okay.
Yeah, I'm very, very familiar with the neighborhood. I'm just
No, I hear-
trying to get a
appreciate it.
historical value on the land.
Yeah, yeah.
The stacked parking, I think, sounds great on paper. If we're adding on this amount of living space, bedroom space, stacked parking, although we may be able to do stacked parking, I don't necessarily believe it's appropriate in this setting, because if I look at your lot, and you're not gonna be there, you're not gonna have a parking attendant, correct? And I'm not, what I'm saying is human nature is to, especially in 2022, is make it easy, what's easy for me? And I'm just, the human piece is that Johnny's not gonna move his car, neither is Billy, and Joey's gotta get out. Eventually, what I'm gonna be concerned with is what I saw there yesterday, is car parked right on the sidewalk. I went over there yesterday for about 45 minutes, because I was concerned about the school bus and the bus issue. And the very first thing I noticed when I pulled up, there was a car parked right in the center of the house, right on the sidewalk. And my first thought was, well, maybe it's a parent waiting for their child to get off the bus because we can't walk more than 3 houses today. But it wasn't. It was there for an hour and 20 minutes. So if that's already happened with qualified space, what's going to happen when there isn't? And my other concern is that the side triangular space, that becomes parking. And then by the electrical box becomes parking. It's a lot, I think. I think the way the houses were set over there, these two family side by side with this footprint was for a reason. I mean, you made a comment earlier, sir, that you say there is a need. What's the need? When you talk of what is the need, is the need, you said, well, there's a need for this. What's the need?
So if you look in terms of available housing, in terms of the, within the Lowell area, at the time that when I was putting that together,
Yeah,
from the availability, it dropped pretty significantly. The four bedroom units were very, very sparse to get. I know because I have a 3-bedroom unit, and that 3-bedroom unit gets so many people coming in asking, do you have 4? So I do know there's a limited supply from that space, and this is pretty much one way to meet it.
so the need is specific to this site to enlarge.
I'm not
So
gonna-
what you're asking us is to enlarge this home for the need of housing, because you're having people asking you that they specifically want housing here.
Not specifically in that corner, but
Okay.
certainly up the street in 75 Beacon Street.
Okay.
So it's in that general area.
But it's a net revenue.
I'm sorry?
It's net revenue at the end of the day. Everything's a function of money. So it's net revenue.
It's,
And I certainly understand that you're the landlord. You've taken the liability on as the landlord in the city. I understand that. But I just don't, what I see is a couple of things. I see we're not complete here tonight. Package isn't complete. And I'm not going to get into timeline when it was sent and we received it. The majority of the board's been here for a very long time, and we have an established practice. And, viewing of documents, reading of documents it's how we get it's the foundation of our decisions, as well as, notifying the citizens of our city. If you go up, it's the only place to go. Your program going up is being, in my opinion, adverse to the property itself because you're going back and you're taking green space away. Now, we've gone from one side has 10, one has 12. Now we're down to 9. Now we're going back to 72, and we're taking away more green space. I don't see it. I see that, to me, it becomes a public safety concern, especially, I travel through that neighborhood a lot. Who doesn't? The whole world cuts through there. And I'm sorry that's happened in God's country, but it's true. The public safety concern I have is, and we did our homework here, we looked at the bus stops, all right? Safety of the children at the bus stops. If we have stacked parking and it becomes very loose, it's only going to affect the neighborhood. And by getting there, you're making the hardship on yourself, in my thought, is because you're taking away that green space. And to take away green space in a dense neighborhood, in my opinion, doesn't outweigh the need for additional housing in that particular site.
Could I maybe address a couple of the issues?
Sure, certainly.
All right, so first thing is the person that was parked in front of the house. I mean, that is really, nobody's there, so I don't know who that person is. It really has nothing to do with the residents, right?
And you're not going to be able to control it like you're not going to be able to control Jimmy, Johnny, and Bobby getting the cars out.
Hey, this is
And they're
part of
gonna
living
get-
in the city. This is
And
what
they're
you get.
they're gonna park them wherever they want around there.
Yes,
People
and
tend to park wherever they want in the city.
And I really can't control that.
No.
So this isn't one of those items that is really under my control. And this existed for the years and years and years in this property. So
But I think this plan with the 72 feet enables it. I don't think it has a reproach to it. I think it enables it.
I'm sorry, enables more people to do that or disables people from
It enables more people to park on the street.
Why?
Because, sir, frankly, honestly, humans are not going to stack park because it's convenient to a planning board. It's just, to me, it just seems that in order to get to where we want to go, first of all, we need to concentrate on the application. It's not complete. Second of all, if if I'm gonna look to a variance, I'm gonna look to the variance as a whole. Is it being an adverse effect on anything else? And the plan itself is adversely affecting the property.
Okay,
You're reducing green space, and you're, in my thought, and I'm not, because my concern, quite frankly, is, this is who's next? This is, this is Pandora's box in a very dense neighborhood.
Okay.
And the same home styles that are built are gonna entice or advance other people to do the same thing, which is then gonna put more restriction on the neighbors in the neighborhood.
okay.
You've made the investment, and we're always very appreciative of people coming to the city of Lowell and making investments. I think you went back to the drawing board. I think some chalk was missing,
Okay,
perhaps, and the
okay.
chalk ran out, and we have some things that are missing, but
Yes. I apologize, I still haven't finished addressing some of the items, if it's
Okay.
okay? Okay, so I get that in terms of the parking, we're on the same page. The person basically might have definitely doesn't live there. The stacked parking, I have had experience also in another unit, another building in Lowell as well, that basically has the same residents basically stacked in front of each other, up to 3 cars, and they basically manage it quite easily, not a problem. Now, I get the issue in terms of being in the corner. The corner is a challenge, and it's going to be a challenge, frankly. It's been a challenge probably for the last whatever years, because that's the way it's been. People have been using it just the way it is. Maybe now a little bit more people would use it. So
But
I'm not sure.
you're
if-
increasing by 4 to 6 cars.
Yeah,
So-
even if we did, at the end of the day, you're coming out of the driveway the same way,
It-
correct? Just more people doing it, which is okay. I get that. The other item I think in
What
terms
you're
of,
doing there, though, quite frankly, sir, is if they still have to go. The cars still have to rest. How they get there in and out is obviously, people are gonna be pulling them in and out. But what I'm saying is when this was looked at, when those amount of bedrooms came to play,
Mhm.
did parking come into the mindset of the plan? And if it did, I would think, with my understanding of the property and my understanding of the zoning, that one might say, this might be too many bedrooms, maybe I need to go down one. Maybe I need, maybe I need to reduce the footprint of the addition. I'm very, this is a situation where I've been here for a bit, and I don't think I've seen residential stacked parking as part of a variance in the city of Lowell. Do you?
Yeah, there is
I've been here for 12, maybe too long, but I'm just saying, from a stacked parking standpoint, we've had them in commercial settings, identified and marked, which is according to the zoning, but this is, no, 2-family. Yeah, 2 each stacked, but not 4, and then marked.
So I think the zoning is a bit gray about the number of parking spaces. That's the problem.
Yep.
I can just read it off just so that we're all clear on
Great.
what the language is.
Yeah, that'd be very helpful. Thank
So
you.
it's section 6.11.5. So it's deep in there. But it says off-street parking requirements for single-family and 2-family residential buildings may be satisfied by stacking spaces behind one another in a driveway. I think that's a bit gray because it doesn't say how many. Then it says off-street parking requirements for residential buildings may be satisfied by locating one surface parking space in front of a garage serving the same dwelling unit. In no other circumstance may all or part of the minimum parking requirements be satisfied in such a manner as to require moving a car parked in any one space to enable a car parking in any one space to enter or exit that space. When a common driveway is shared by 2 or more property owners, or when stacked spaces are used at a 2-family property, no parking requirements may be satisfied in such a manner as to require moving a car owned or used by the owner or occupant of one property to enable a car owned or used by the owner or occupant of another property to enter and exit the parking area. So you have clearly this articulation that you can't rely on a resident of the other unit to move, but it doesn't say how many spaces. And so that's why I can't say this meets, it's unclear and it's gray, and I think it's up to the board's discretion whether or not this proposal meets the intent of this section of zoning. That's my opinion.
Thank you very much, and I appreciate you reading that. And I've read it, and I think it's great that it's in public record, but I agree, it's gray. But what pulls it out of the gray is that we're reducing in the rear. We're creating. It's just, it seems to me it's not the, in my opinion, it's not the role of the board to checkmate a variance to get in what we want, but then reduce and adverse the property on itself.
Yeah.
To me,
I think again, the minimum is 2 per unit anyway. And I think, in terms of reduction or kind of like, reducing the value of the property adversely, I'm definitely the last person who would want that. I want to make sure I increase the value. And at the same time, from the green space perspective, we are going to basically do the landscaping and do the modifications to make it, even though we're taking some of the ground green space, we're basically going to lift up at least, get some greens around the areas as well. So that hopefully kind of alleviates some of that requirement. At some point, if you kind of look across the street and you see the development that's literally across the street on Willard Street, there's no green whatsoever.
it's townhouses.
I'm sorry?
Townhouses, correct?
No, it's apartment buildings. It's apartment buildings basically that are basically parking, building. That's it.
Right,
And
which
this is actually.
is under another guide of the zoning board for townhouses and apartment building. This is a residential 2-family.
I'm sorry?
This is a residential 2-family. The other properties are under zoning as apartment and townhouse complexes. We're not comparing apples and apples.
I thought their zoning was the same SMUs. I thought it was the same type classification,
Okay.
but I could be mistaken.
I would have hoped, this hope is all we have, that some of these issues were in line today. I just feel as though,
Yeah,
I feel as though if we move forward, in my thought, and I'm gonna end with this, if we move forward in a vote with items that aren't here in play, then our only other option is to condition them in, which is totally against what the board, in my opinion, stands for. I think it's a lot to get there, to be honest with you. I completely understand the investment value piece to this, and I understand the need for housing. Clearly, you're in real estate, and clearly you're in development. 75 is a different property. It does well down there. Part of the duties of the board is to ensure that the variance is, in the application, is whole and not standing alone on its own in the neighborhood. And this one kind of will be standing on its own. And it also raise concerns to me that the other same type properties in this neighborhood are going to want to move forward in this line. And instead of having townhouses, an apartment complex with a myriad of 2 families, we're now creating if you will, we could be creating mini apartment complexes in a very, very dense.
We're keeping it as a townhouse, right?
Huh?
We're keeping it as a townhouse.
You're keeping it as a townhouse, but I'm saying what I envision here and what my experience has shown me, that is, if, under these circumstances, this is gonna create other, it's gonna invite a lot more expansion and variances in a very, very dense area. I think it's a big ask. At this point, I think those are my comments. Any other comments or concern of the board? Dennis?
Could I mention just one?
Sure, certainly. I'm sorry. I didn't mean.
I think
thought-
the discussion in terms of the appearance of the unit, in terms of the re-architecting, in terms of making it more amiable to the neighborhood, this was not discussed 2 weeks ago, and that's why we're not prepared in terms of that approach.
Okay.
And like I said, we discussed parking. That's basically what we spent the most time on, and we did address the parking issue. We did look into the zoning requirements, and we did figure out that the stacking was okay. And we do know very clearly that the 2 units only require 2 units per, but we did try and increase it to the best as possible to help. So please keep that in mind a little bit when you take your vote, because I think this is something that's going to be helpful from, it's already a dense area. There is definitely more progress towards that. There's more people moving into Lowell. In fact, if I look at the projections in the next 10 years, places like Westford or the other neighboring towns are going to grow more because they have more footprint. They could add more housing. Lowell is not going to be able to do that. So if this is the direction in terms of, we're basically going to lock Lowell in and say this is landlocked, there's no more expansion in it, that's fine. It's just that this is a project in front of you that can actually help move in that direction for more growth.
Well, to answer that, I don't think that, and I'm sure that that's not your intent, that we're trying to landlock the city of Lowell. The purview of the zoning board is your zoning is met, and not to the detriment of the neighborhood, and not to the detriment of the zoning board and to the master plan.
Yep.
At some point, Lowell's gonna run out of land. We're not Westford, we're not Drake it. We're gonna run out of land. And we're going to run out of additional spaces on current land to expand on. That's the reality. So I can tell you from my point, I don't vote on what ifs. I vote on what I have in front of me. And, the board is not here to landlock anybody. And, space is space. It's like math, right? Numbers are numbers, and that's what it comes down to.
Yep.
And that's why, part of the function of the board and DPD is to work with people, So, any other comments, Mr. McCarthy?
I'd just like to suggest to you, Mr. Chairman, as I started with, when I was asking my questions, that I thought that the documentation that was provided for the board for tonight's hearing was not in a timely manner, at least what I'm used to getting, and also is not completely identifying the variances that you're seeking. Namely, you don't show usable open space with the new parking layout. And you don't show dimensional characteristics for like setbacks of your parking layout, even the one that is provided. So I think there's some lacking criteria that is a minimum standard that's supposed to be part of the submission that I would suggest would warrant a continuation, in my opinion.
Thank you. Mr. Vice Chair?
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, after further review, I'm in agreement that the plan's got to be, we got to get new plans reconfigured. As I'm just taking what the new plans are with the egresses moved from the side to the back. This is now reconfiguring your floor plans, because you still have proposed for the new first floor plan, the kitchen on each side, with the kitchens on the back, and that's obviously going to reconfigure because You're now moving the egresses from the sides to the back, which would reconfigure the new kitchens. Additionally, I'm kind of curious, I'm presuming that there's a basement in this building, correct? That, what is the access to the basement? Is there outdoor access by bulkhead or anything else as far as, or is it just an indoor, just indoor?
Indoors.
Really?
If you look at the floor plan for the first floor.
No, I noticed that on that. I see there's a downstairs going from the kitchen
That's
area
right. That
down.
one is there, that was it.
Yeah. No, I guess if there was outdoor egress, outdoor access to a basement,
There is-
that would take away from any usable open space, I would presume, because you're extending out about 3 to 5 feet from a bulkhead. That I didn't know if there was access to a bulkhead back there, which would then reconfigure, reconfigure your outdoor egress from the back,
Yes.
take away more usable open space, possibly affect the reconfiguration of the parking spaces.
There is no bulkhead access to
Okay.
the basement, just purely that staircase.
No, that was just something I was
Yep.
kind of curious of, so. And I think also it would be beneficial as well. I mean, we have the outdoor configuration of the elevation plans, but then we don't know what the indoor configuration of the elevation plans would be, if a third floor is added on. Whether there's going to be attic space, which
No.
is now adding on possibly additional space for an additional possible bedroom or something.
Actually, yeah, from the elevation, you could see the roof height is probably about 5 feet, I think is what it comes
Okay.
down to. So there's no space that's going to be usable there.
All right. Well,
And that's
There's
consistent
something
with
else to consider as far as additional plans for this, so, but those are my thoughts, Mr. Chairman, thank you.
Thank you. Fran?
If I may,
Certainly.
so I'm just getting back up to speed. I was out of the office for a little bit. I'm noticing that the parking plan that was submitted is not on like a stamped site plan, which is concerning to me.
Correct.
Because that means it's not to scale, and that we don't actually know if, for example, there is exactly 72 feet, like one of the board members was mentioning. We don't know what the setbacks are of the pavement, or whether these are exact numbers. If this was added to a certified plot plan, then we would know for sure what we're approving. But as a staff person, that's concerning to me and should be addressed. Any revised materials on the site plan need to be on a certified plot plan.
Thank you, appreciate that.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Bria?
that was my first question when I opened, was whether there was a certified parking plan. So thank you for answering that. Just play along with me for a minute, all right? Under your proposed parking plan with the 72 feet driveway, all right, let's go from the street back, all right? So the first car in line, we're going to call car number 1. 2, 3, 4 is in the backyard. If you were sitting third in line, could you leave that parking space or enter that parking space without the other cars moving?
No.
Didn't think so. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Any other comments, concerns? So I believe at this point, I think we need to stay on the side of precaution. I think we need to ensure that some of these items are back in play. We get some clarification on your parking plan, get some clarifications on your elevations, on the deck. So is that deck, and I don't mean to be sidetracked there, but on the new deck replacing, is that still going to make it to the side entrance, or is it going to be rear entry?
It's a rear entry.
It's going to be rear entry.
So it's on the floor plan.
Okay, all right, just, okay. Dennis?
I just want to ask on the revised site plan that we also get paved surfaces so that we can identify when you do show your usable open space, that it's not incorporating any paved surfaces as it shouldn't. So the walkway to the rear needs to be shown,
Okay,
and any other walkways that you have proposed should be shown on the new, just to be clear as to what's impervious and what's pervious.
okay.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I'll clarify my prior comments, because I just noticed this, that these were on the new plans that were dated 3/11, that you did, when my concerns were with regards to the first floor with the new deck on the back about the reconfiguring of the kitchen, it looks like you already provided those in the plans dated 3/11. But still, I mean, there's still a lot more that needs to be put on these plans, so, but, all right, I just want to clarify that, so thank you.
Okay. So to be prudent, I think we should move to a continuance. Next meeting is 3/28. I'm not,
Can I say something?
yep,
Are these all the open issues? We're not going to find other stuff like, well, I was surprised a little bit today with the architecture. So I was happy to listen to it and
I would
happy to
hope-
take it.
honestly, I hope we won't receive any new issues. As long as the submittals are complete, then we won't find any.
Okay, so let me see if I understand it correctly. We talked a little bit about the structure. Are you asking me to change the structure plan?
Dennis?
It would be my opinion that we should have more tie-in with the existing structures that are there, so the roof edge would be consistent with dormers, would be a solution.
Okay.
But I'm not telling you the solution, I'm just saying you should have a connection to what's there rather than just have this addition happen that looks like it's not sympathetic to the context.
Okay.
That's, I wasn't at the other meeting, I'm sorry, that,
I'm sorry.
I wasn't at the original hearing meeting, so that's why I wasn't able to participate with
Okay.
the understanding of the architecture.
Okay. Okay, so that's helpful. It's good to know. How about the landscape? Is that a requirement? Do you want me to come up with a
Landscape plan.
Okay.
Landscape plan, reconfigured site plan, certified site plan. If you're
Okay.
gonna do any reconfigurations on your own.
And,
Which shows the dimensional,
Shows the dimensional,
the parking dimensions.
okay.
parking dimension as well, and a
So the parking dimensions, I'm going to use the pre-certified plot that I have from the plot surveyor, and it's all to scale. This actually was done to scale, just so you know, even though the scale is not on it. I will update this with the scale. I'll do it manually if it's okay. I mean, that's probably the best that could be done, but I will keep it to scale.
that, yeah.
I just wanted to note, at any point, I mean, at the next meeting, something could come up that the board is looking for, and staff can provide as much guidance as possible, but it's always possible that you'll come back before. It's the nature of what this is fleshing out issues with a development, and that's just the nature of what this type of forum is for, and you could come back and there could be something else missing, so it's impossible for us as staff to predict that for you and for the board to know, and that's just the nature of this process, so I just wanted to add that.
No, I appreciate it. I think if you go, I mean, if you start with the certified plot plan, landscape plan, we need a stamp for the elevations on the driveway. Yeah, it's, the onus is not, the board is here to, you know, you may, there's never a guarantee that nothing's gonna be under another rock. That's just impossible for us to answer, and frankly, we're not gonna be held to that. We're not gonna sit here at this board, or me as the chairman is not gonna say that that's it, because
And I
I
get that,
understand.
but-
You wanna get all your homework done as quickly as possible. So do we. Nothing is more incomplete than continuances in the zoning board of appeals.
Yes, I appreciate that, but
Okay.
just so we're on the same page, I'm not saying
Yep,
that I'm
no.
not expecting stuff to come back.
Well-
It's just that we looked at the structure 2 weeks ago. So please understand my reaction to that. All right, nothing unusual. I appreciate the process. I'm
Yep.
good with that. It's
Yep.
just that,
So those requirements you still need to meet, whether they were brought up or they weren't brought up.
Yes,
Those were
yes,
part
that's
of what
fine.
we discussed.
That's fine. It's all good.
Mr. McCarthy's comments, those are just his thoughts.
Yeah.
He can't be bound by recommendations and to do your build for you. It's just,
Okay.
that's not the position of the board. The board has continually in the past, and I'm sure in the future, with the qualified professionals we have here, give their professional input, but that's all it is.
Yep,
It's
we're
just
good.
thought and process. It's not anything etched in stone, so we certainly wouldn't want to be called back to say, well, this was a recommendation of the board member, because it's thought process out loud of his expertise and professionalism, quite frankly. I'm thankful of it more than I am arbitrary. So, do you need 2 weeks, 4 weeks? We're looking at March 28th or April 11th?
Yep.
Or April 20,
If I may ask one more question, so the certified plot plan, I have the raw one. I can draw on top of it with scale, and that's good enough? Or do you want, or is there a different requirement?
If I may.
by all means.
So this that was submitted is not on a plot plan. This is
I have
a
one with a plot
screenshot of a plot plan with Illustrator or something drawn on top of it. It needs to be drawn onto a certified, whatever is on the certified plot plan that you originally submitted, there's a stamp from a surveyor affirming that everything is to scale, all the distances are correct, they were on site, they measured everything. And the proposed parking plan needs to be integrated into that plan
Sure. Okay. That's easy to
versus
do.
a screenshot with superimposed shapes and
I
numbers.
get it. I get it. I'm good with you. I think the key here is I could start with the original plot plan that I have to scale, and I'll draw the dimensions of the driveway as I measure them, and I put them in on top of it to scale.
No, the surveyor needs to do that.
That was my question. So it's the surveyor has to do
needs
it?
to do that.
Yeah.
You can't manipulate a certified plot plan after it's been stamped yourself. The surveyor stamps it after
So the certificate.
and affirms that everything on the plan has been there, but it's not legal for you to go in and alter that.
Okay.
Because the stamp is them attesting to putting their certification, their professional certification on the line and saying that is factually what is on the ground, and 72 feet that you claim is there is actually there.
Okay, so, okay.
But you can't manipulate a certified plot plan if your name isn't on that stamp.
All right. So then, in that case, we'll probably need 4 weeks.
4 weeks?
Yeah.
Okay. Fran, I really, thank you very much for your, and I know you're probably not appreciative you're here tonight, but I know I am, and we're moving forward. So if we go 4 weeks out from today, we're looking at April the 11th?
April 11th. Oh, that's our April 11th.
We have a meeting on April 11th and the 25th. Is either one of them? No, the week is before that for a holiday. Right.
Oh, no, April 18th, that's right. Sorry.
Right.
April 18th, no.
No, you're right.
No, April
11th or the 25th of April. We're looking at 4 weeks. I think you're more towards the 25th mark, but it's
Let's do the
your
11th.
homework. Huh?
11th is good.
11th, April 11th? Okay, that being said, I made a motion.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion for ZBA 2022-6 for variance at 697, 699 Beacon Street to be continued to April 11th.
May I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Briere. May I have a roll call?
Chairman Perrin,
Continue to April 11th, 2022.
Member Callahan,
Continue to April 11th, 2022.
Member McCarthy,
Approve continuance to April 11th, 2022.
Member Briere,
Approve continuance.
Member Procope,
Approved continuance, April 11th, 2022.
Member Naroge.
Approved continuance, April 11th, 2022.
So you've been continued. We'll see you then.
All right, very good, thank you.
Good luck. Thank you. For the record, this is the public notice for this continuance. It will not be posted. It will not be placed in the Lowell Sun, nor will the butters be notified. And we will see this petition on the 11th of April. I want to thank you for coming out again tonight and your due diligence on the bus stop. Moving forward under ZBA 2022-10 for a variance, Narajan Baguette at 49 Catherine Drive, Section 5.1. Mr. Narajan Baguette has applied to the Zoning Board of Appeals to construct an addition to his single-family home at 45 Catherine Drive. The property is located in the suburban single-family zoning district, SSF, and requires one variance for maximum floor area ratio under Section 5.1 and any other relief required of the local zoning ordinance. Is the petitioner here tonight or joining us by Zoom?
There are a few people present on Zoom. I'm not sure
Okay.
if they're the applicant.
If you are participating via Zoom and you are the petitioner, please state your name and address for the public record. Release yourself off mute. Yes, Mr. McCarthy, well said. I think we'll move to table this petition, and we'll move to other business. If the petitioner comes online or Zoom, we'll revisit prior to the end
Can
of
I
the meeting.
get to speak?
Someone
My
talk.
name is Debbie Belanger, and I'm on Zoom. And I wanted to speak in.
The public hearing is not open for
Oh,
that
okay.
petition. If the petitioner comes, we will certainly, yes, certainly the public hearing will open, but we cannot open the public hearing until the petition has been spoken on and then brought into record.
Okay, thank you.
Is she here on that project, or is she here on something else?
You wanted to speak on 45 Catherine Drive, correct?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Yeah, if the petitioner arrives via Zoom or on the intraweb prior to the exhausting of the remaining agenda, we'll get back. Moving forward on to other business, special permit extension, 83 Boulevard Street. The applicant is seeking extension for their special permit, which was originally granted in April 2019. The applicant is seeking to expand the existing substation at 83 Boulevard Street. The project has been delayed due to COVID-related construction and inflation issues. The applicant received a variance as well. At the time of the decision, they will be refiling for new variance approval. The special permit granted on the project is scheduled to expire on July 12, 2022, and because construction will not commence until after such permit is scheduled to expire, MEC requests that the special permit be extended to October 31st, 2023. Is there anyone on behalf of the permanent extension request?
Good evening, Mr. Chair.
Good evening.
It sounds like you can hear me okay?
Certainly, we can.
Great. Just for the record, and I see two of myself for some reason, but there's not an echo, I assume.
Nope, you're ready to go, sir. Just state your
Oh,
name and address
okay.
for the record.
Great. For the record, my name is Joshua Lee Smith. I'm an attorney with the law firm of Bowditch and Dewey, and my address, my office address is 311 Main Street, Worcester. I am here this evening representing my client, Massachusetts Electric Company, in connection with this extension request. As you had articulated, Mr. Chair, it is a pretty straightforward request. We did receive our initial approval in connection with this rebuilding of an existing electric substation off of Boulevard Street back in 2019. After our first approval, the company, as it tends to do from time to time, had to reconfigure slightly the layout and design of the substation with respect to certain equipment. This was based on feedback from the vendors. Oftentimes, once a project is permitted, the project then goes out to bid, and then the vendors provide more detail with respect to design and layout. So after we had sought our initial approval in 2019, we had come back before this board with a minor modification, which this board also unanimously approved. Subsequent to that, in 2020, in March 2021, the board had also granted an extension of the special permit. That, as you can tell, March 2021 was about a year after COVID had really started to take its effect on the world. And so the board understood the effects of the pandemic and understood the challenges that not only the company, but other companies and obviously everyone in our personal lives, how they were affected by COVID. And so the board had unanimously approved the extension. As you again had mentioned, Mr. Chair, the special permit is now extended through July 12th, 2022. So July of this year. And the company has, once again, it still has prolonged effects resulting from not only the pandemic, but also, again, a global situation with respect to supply chain issues and inflation and the availability of its construction crews and labor and materials. So the company, as I'm sure you well know, has infrastructure and assets all over many parts of the Commonwealth and beyond. And so a number of projects have either been canceled or delayed. Fortunately, this project was not outright canceled. It was delayed, however, and we are requesting at this time a further extension to October 31st, 2023, which would be the time at which the company anticipates that construction would fully commence with respect to this reliability project. That is really all that we are asking for at this time, Mr. Chair, members of the board, and we respectfully request that that approval of the extension be provided tonight. Thank you. Happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Councilor. I appreciate your outline and detail on this particular project as it does go back a bit, but it is complicated and it's intertwined with a lot of variables that are uncontrollable. At that time, I'd like to open up to the board for any comments or concerns. Sean?
Thank you, through Mr. Chairman. Just so we're clear on this, because I know this issue's come up in the past about this board granting extensions, but I think this is a different situation because this is just for a special permit extension, and this was on our radar a couple weeks ago when we were discussing extensions, correct? Right, Fran?
Yes, if I may. We did look into this and we had a conversation with the applicant. I checked in with the Director of Development Services. We've read through Mass General Law, and with the variances, it's very clear that the state allows for 1 6-month extension. For special permits, they do not have language like that. So our read of Mass General Law is that you can grant as many as you wish to.
As long as there's good cause.
Exactly.
Shown. Yeah. So, yep. Just want to make sure it's on the record that we're clear on that, because I know this issue came up a couple months ago. And so, with that being said, I believe the applicant has clearly shown good cause on granting the extension for the special permit only. My understanding, Council, you're going to be before the board on the variances, the lapsed variances in the future, correct?
Yes, that's correct, Mr. Chair. The variance was for a rear yard setback for the only building that is contemplated in connection with the project. And as Fran had mentioned, we are limited, we are restricted in terms of insofar as the number or the length of time with respect to a further extension of that. So we will be reapplying for a new variance, although we do not anticipate any changes whatsoever with respect to the scope of the project. But yes, we will be seeking a new variance as we get closer to that. What we're requesting, if this board approves the special permit extension, as we get closer to the commencement of work, which again would be around the October 2023 timeframe.
Okay. Yep. Thanks. I just want to get that clarified on the record. So, and again, I have no objection to granting of the special permit. I think there is certainly good cause in this situation. So, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Dennis. Mark?
No questions, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mark. Dennis?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I think that we should grant this extension as well. And the fact that you're coming for the variance, coming back to us, I was a little nervous about the fact that these plans are now going to be roughly 3 years old, and not knowing if any stormwater regs have changed in the 3 years, we'll have a review of maybe those documents at the variance stage, coming up close to the October 21, 2023 date, just to make sure that we aren't missing any elements that have, outdated because of code changes or groundwater changes in the area. So I think we're safe in granting the special permit, knowing that we'll be back looking at a variance. Thank you.
Thank you, Dennis. Robert?
No questions, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Robert. George?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think the applicant has shown just cause for special permit extension, so I wouldn't have a problem with that. But I do want to second Mr. McCarthy's comments about, the documentation. So when that time comes, I hope we would have some updated information.
Thank you, George. Any other comments? None being heard, may I have a motion?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion for a special permit extension for number 3 Boulevard Street.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair.
Yes,
The address is
Counsel.
actually 83 Boulevard Street.
I'm sorry, you're right. The lighting in here is, excuse me. I'd like to make a motion for a special permit extension for 83 Boulevard Street, Lowell, Mass.
Thank you. May I have a second?
I second.
Seconded by George Proko. May I have a roll call, please?
Chairman Perrin,
Approve the extension to October 31st, 2023.
Member Callahan,
Approve extension of special permit to October 31st, 2023.
Member McCarthy,
Approve the extension to October 21st, 2023.
Member.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair. It's October 31st, not 21st.
31st. Correct.
That's what we said, right?
Yep. October 31st, 2023.
I got it.
Okay, thank you.
Member Briere,
Approval.
Member Procope,
Approved.
Member Naroge.
Approved.
Counselor, you've been unanimously approved. Really should have continued success with this project ongoing.
Thank you. I appreciate everyone's cooperation, and thank you to Fran as well for her guidance and support and assistance as always.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
Thank you. Take
Thanks a
care.
lot. Thank you.
Moving forward under other business, we have minutes for approval for February 28th, 2022. Anyone have any comments, additions, deletions, any concerns? None being heard. May I have a motion?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve the meeting minutes for February 28th, 2022.
May I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Vice Chair. May I have a roll call, please?
Chairman Perrin,
Approve the minutes for 2/28/2022.
Member Callahan,
Approve minutes for February 28th, 2022.
Member McCarthy,
Abstain.
Member Briere,
Approval.
Member Procope,
Approved meeting minutes.
Member Naroge.
Thank you.
It's, if we go back to new business, ZBA 2022-10, we have a petition arrive on Zoom. No call-in, nothing. That being said, if we could have DPD reach out to the petitioner for rescheduling and advise them on the requirements for notice to the Zoning Board of Appeals for absenteeism. Any other comments or concerns on the board?
Sorry, if I may, it does need to be continued to the next meeting. If you, well, the board can do what they would like to,
Do we have
but
any comments or communications with them?
I'm not sure. It's not my project.
Okay, are they up to date on their
I'm not
applications
sure.
and everything? Okay.
Sounds like they are.
All right, with that being said, can I have a motion to extend ZB 2022-10 to March 28th, 2022? Thank you, Fran.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion for ZBA 2022-10 for a variance for 45 Catherine Street to be continued to March 28th, 2022.
I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Vice Chairman. Have a roll call.
Chairman Perrin,
Continue to March 28th, 2022.
Member Callahan?
Continue to March 28th, 2022.
Member McCarthy?
Approve continuance to March 28th, 2022.
Member Briere?
Approve continuance.
Member Procope?
Approved continuance, March 28, 2022.
Member Naroge?
Approve continuance.
We have no other business at present. Any other comments or concerns by the board?
Quickly, Mr. Chairman, just
Yes.
on, what, we just had the extension where we were just discussing about, we previously asked for, well, Fran, we asked previously about getting an opinion from the law department, but is that not forthcoming? We just know now, based on what you're telling us, that that's our, going forward, we know that for variances, we can only grant one continuance for 6 months, and then, right, or are we still waiting opinion from the law
We
department?
did get a law opinion. I believe I sent it out. I can resend it.
Okay, I don't
But
recall
sent
receiving
It
it.
sounds like the other board members received it, but I can recirculate it for sure. But they did definitively say that we're only allowed to grant one 6-month extension. I'll send that out again.
I just don't recall receiving it. My apologies if I did and I just missed it, but, okay. Just, and then that being said, then what are we gonna do with the remaining, the ones that were on the agenda previously that we were,
They're going to be told that they have to refile. This was actually 83 Boulevard Street was one of the applications that was in limbo, like we were discussing. So we're going to let them know that they have to refile.
well, they 83 knows that they're gonna have to refile anyway.
Exactly. So we
but
would do the
all
same
other
with the
ones-
others.
Yeah,
Exactly.
okay, all right, great, thank you.
Thank you, Sean. Dennis?
I just have one comment, Fran, if we could. The documentation that is required partly is to put a notification for the neighborhood to understand that this application is coming for a special permit or variance on site. On Catherine Street, I had to go twice. The first time I went, I couldn't find the sign. And the second time I went, I saw that the sign was attached to the house. The first time I went, it was attached to the house, but there were cars parked in such a way that you couldn't see it from the street. So I think it says something about it being visible
From the public way.
from the public way.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway,
That's a good point. I don't think that necessarily meets the spirit of that
Right.
requirement. So
it's
not a good location for it.
it's visible from the public way when cars aren't blocking it, right? And so
Understood.
it's kind of a gray area, if you will.
Okay.
Just saying.
We'll look into that.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was kind of like moving chairs with that sign. I do agree with Mr. McCarthy. I went, it was leaning against a tree on the farther side of the lot, and then it was up against the house. So if we could pass that information on, then we can stay consistent. Any other comments or concerns? May I have a motion for adjourn?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Meeting's adjourned.
Happy St. Patrick's Day, everyone.
Happy St. Patty's Day. Be safe in the city.